Hey, well, we're pleased to be joined by Neal McCready. You know him, Rebel Grove, MPW Digital. Does a fantastic job covering Ole Miss and has been on the show a number of times. Neal, thank you so much for taking the time.
Michael, it's always fun to visit with you, whether it's on my platform or yours. You've been kind enough with your time on mine many times, and I appreciate you. I think you do a great job. Thanks.
Well, thank you, because that means a lot, because I do talk up a lot of the guests we have, but there's not many that I listen to. I try to listen to everything they put out. I love the conversations you have on your channel, so I highly, highly, highly recommend everybody that watches this to go subscribe to Neal on YouTube and on Twitter. But I want to ask you this, Neal. The Kentucky loss, how big of a surprise is that inside that Ole Miss football building this week, do you think?
Inside the building. You know what? I think it was a pretty big surprise. I hate to sit here and say that a team and a program got cocky, but I think they probably were a little cocky. God knows the fans have been. I mean, the fans have been just, and that's not a criticism as much as it is just, they went 11-2. They rolled through the portal. They basically got everyone they wanted. They had a really good recruiting class. They got lots and lots of respect, and they played these 4 preseason games, real games, but they were pre-conference games, and they just beat the hell. Can we curse? They just beat the shit out of everybody. And I mean, it was like they played Furman, and it was 76-0, and it could have been 100-0. Literally. They played Middle Tennessee, and there was a little moment there where they played with their food, and they still won 52-3 or something. And then they went to Wake, and they had a fumble and something else, and they still won 40-0. It could have easily been 50-0, 54-0. It was just a mauling. And I started saying, hey, they need to play somebody. And the answer to that is Georgia Southern. And Georgia Southern's the first team they played that even had the flicker of a pulse. And even Georgia Southern, I mean, the people are on top of it. They're just going, come on, stay with me. And, Georgia Southern's barely there, and Ole Miss beat the hell out of them. I mean, the only drama was, will they cover the 36 or not? And they did. I mean, that's it. And that, I don't know that gets you ready for Kentucky. And then Kentucky rolls in, and probably the worst thing that happened to Ole Miss was Kentucky got blown out at home by South Carolina. And everybody was like, oh, they suck. They suck. I always hate that. I hate when people do this about SEC teams when they go, they suck. Because, Michael, most SEC teams don't really suck. They might suck inside the SEC, but they don't really suck. They got players. Like, pick the 3 worst teams in the SEC, not named Mississippi State. So we're talking about Auburn, Arkansas, Florida. Okay? All 3 of those teams have SEC players. All 3 of those teams have guys that can hurt you. All 3 of those teams have guys that can make plays, that can score, that can do things, that can make sacks, that can cause turnovers. All 3 of them. They do. Now, most teams are better than them, but if you're not significantly more dialed in than them on a given day, you can get beat. Well, Kentucky's not the bottom of the barrel. Kentucky played Georgia within 1 point. And I kept hearing people trying to explain that game away a little bit, like, well, that's just something Georgia does. They play with their food once or twice a year. And you're like, okay, but really? I mean, no, this is the league. And there were some matchup issues. Ole Miss's offensive line's a little banged up. No one knows how good it is. They added some people, but that doesn't mean it's a better line. Line play requires some chemistry, some communication. And then, Kentucky's defensive front's a bunch of dudes, man. I mean, Walker is a stud. I mean, he's this massive mountain of a guy, and you can't move him. And he starts making plays. He's more athletic than he looks. They have some other guys up there. Number 8, I can't think of his name right now. I was really impactful. They have big corners that did some things well. And, man, Kentucky survived an opening shot, and then kind of got back in the game, and they started eating clock, and Ole Miss got a little funky on offense, a little bogged down on offense, and then they couldn't couldn't get them off the field. Ole Miss was 1 for 10 on third down. They gave up 4 third down conversions to Kentucky, gave up 3 more with penalties. Both teams were perfect on fourth down, which is weird. But, before you know it, it's kind of like a basketball game, Michael, where if you're a basketball coach of an underdog team, you tell your team, hey, look, don't think about this like 40 minutes. Think about this like 10 4-minute games. Let's just stay in as many 4-minute games as we can. Maybe sneak one here and there. Don't get blown out in any 4 minutes. Let's just look at it in pieces, guys. It's not one big steak. It's a bite of a steak at a time. And let's just work through this a little and see where we go. And that's what Kentucky did. And next thing you know, 8-9 minutes left, and they're right there. And then they make the play. They made a couple of plays. Ole Miss didn't. And there you have it. So was I surprised? Yes. Was the part of me that has covered the league for basically 25 years surprised? No, not really. And, you look up and you go in one afternoon. You go from top 6 in the country and people going, oh, they're a lot for the playoff, to, oh, my God, the season is in jeopardy. That's how fast it happens. It's crazy. But here we are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's right. Why I reached out to you as soon as I heard you talk about it on your show. You said this will be the biggest game of Lane Kiffin's tenure at Ole Miss. Can you go into more detail there?
Yeah, sure. They're 0-1 in the league. It's a bad loss potentially. I mean, I'm looking at this trusty schedule that I've used all offseason from O'Neill Steel, the metals company. Kentucky, they're now 3-2. They get Vanderbilt at home. They should win that. That's 4-2. At Florida, they probably should win that. They should beat Auburn at home. They'll probably lose at Tennessee. So that's 3 losses. They'll probably lose at Texas. That's 4 losses. They could lose at home to Louisville. They could beat Louisville. But, 8-4, 7-5 Kentucky. You lose to them at home. It's not the worst loss in the world, but it's not the sexiest loss either. It's not like, hey, you lost at Alabama and they went 11-1, or you lost to Georgia and they went 11-1, or you lost to Texas and they went 11-1. No, I mean, Kentucky's got losses. If you win Saturday at South Carolina and you're Ole Miss, it just makes LSU the biggest game on the schedule. And if you win that, then you get a chance to kind of take a breath and look back and go, okay, well, we traded LSU for Kentucky. Before the season, everybody went, well, they'll lose at LSU. That'll be their first loss. No, you traded that. You traded, and probably a decent trade, right? You traded, you got in exchange for a road win at LSU, you traded a home loss to Kentucky. Okay. You're still fine. Now you come back, you beat Oklahoma, you go to Arkansas and win. Even if you lose to Georgia, as long as you win out, you're probably okay at 10-2 right there. You're probably not hosting, but you're on the road. First round's fine. You did it. Michael, you lose Saturday, it's night. It's over. You're 0-2. If you want to do the fantasy land about, oh, well, you'll be fine in this era of one and done, in this era of NIL, in this era of transfer portal, of a bunch of people that come into your program that don't really care about your program, that aren't really there for that reason, that came because you said, hey, we're going to do Last Dance, we're going to win, we're going to do the whole thing. Well, now you have to, in a world where you still made it, you have to win out, which means you win at LSU, you beat Georgia. Those are all must-win games now. And even then, you've got losses to Kentucky, and referring back to my trusty little my trusty thing here. South Carolina's already got a loss. They'll lose at Alabama. They could lose to A&M. They could lose to Missouri. They could lose to Clemson. I mean, you would have two kind of blah losses on your resume. I mean, you're comparing it. I mean, yeah, you'd have a win against Georgia. You'd have a win at LSU, and that probably would get you in. But if you lose to Kentucky and you lose at South Carolina, you're not beating Georgia. You're not and beating LSU and beating Oklahoma. That's not realistic, Michael. And then you have all the emotional, mental part of this. What would an open date feel like coming off of the LSU game, even if you look, I think they have to win both of these games. I think if they lose one of them, they're just done. That's what I think, because they couldn't lose to Kentucky. The path for Ole Miss was you won every game, and then you made sure you got at least one of the LSU, Oklahoma, Georgia deal. Realistically, you had to beat Oklahoma. I think the two losses you could afford were LSU and Georgia, but now you lost to Kentucky, so the calculus changes. And if they lose, I think guys start thinking about their futures. Guys start thinking about things other than this. Guys start going, well, this didn't work. It's just human nature kicks in. And I think it gets really kind of weird where people start asking about this model. Does this model of buying players work? Do the people that give to the collective, do they start going, well, this was stupid. I gave a lot of my money, and here we are, Christmas right around the corner. I'm giving money to this football team that gives me no pleasure at all. In fact, I hate them now. I mean, I think there's a lot there. And I think this isn't just about Ole Miss. This is going to happen around the country. It's why I think this model, and I've openly said I'm dead wrong. I think this model of always asking the fans to give more to buy players is flawed.
Mm-hmm. Well, sticking with Ole Miss, though, how big of an indictment of Lane Kiffin would this be? If let's say they lose to South Carolina, they lose to LSU, they lose to Georgia, because Kiffin was, he was quite open. Hey, we don't look like Georgia. Now they look like Georgia, and a worse record.
It's a simple answer. Look, if there's no spinning. I mean, everybody's going to spin. The homers will spin, but if your playoffs are bust, Michael, your playoffs are bust. If your playoffs are bust, your playoffs are bust. Your playoffs, make the playoffs, it's a win. It's a success. Whether you lose in the first round or make it all the way to the end, it's still a success. You made the playoff. If you don't make the playoff, it's a failure. You didn't make the playoff. When you spend all of this money and all of this time accumulating a team to put together to be good enough to make the playoff, and you say, that's our goal, last dance, the whole deal, and you don't make it, and for the record, that hasn't happened yet. Ole Miss can absolutely survive a loss to Kentucky, period. Absolutely. Easy. But they've taken their margin for error and they shrunk it. And so now you got to be really efficient and really good, and maybe they will be. But if they're not, and they lose those games, like you said, it's failure. It would be an indictment in that scenario, on Kiffin, on his staff, on everybody who put this team together. It's not fair. We didn't do that in the old football, but we do it now, and that's just the way it is. That's part of it. When you become professional sports, I think you start getting judged the way that we judge professional sports teams, right? When an NFL team doesn't make the playoffs, it's failure usually. Mm-hmm.
And I wonder, I know you don't cover Missouri, but I wonder if there's that added pressure, because all off season, that's all Ole Miss heard was your playoff team. And we're seeing that Missouri they're undefeated, but they're struggling. I mean, hell, Vanderbilt took them to overtime. That all off season, I was hyping these teams as the path is there. They should get there.
Yeah,
I wonder if that's hurting any of them.
Well, both Ole Miss and Missouri are two teams that aren't used to that hype.
Exactly.
And I have a little bit of a theory here it's kind of half baked, but maybe there's some truth to it. These are kids that are around the fans a lot, class and stuff, and they're around. Ole Miss fans aren't used to being the respected. I mean, there's some people in Ole Miss media circles that, trying to think if I can give you exactly who it was. Brett McMurphy. I like Brett. I'm not picking on Brett here, by the way, just an example. His ballot after like the third week, he had Ole Miss like, I don't know, 12th or something. Who cares? There were people who do shows on Ole Miss that were like, see, the disrespect has started. The media wants Ole Miss to fail. Look at this disrespect. And it's like, are you insane? What are you? I mean, the answer is yes, you're insane, but what are you talking about? Everyone's picking you to make the playoff. He's got you at 12th in the country and you haven't played anybody yet. What are you talking about? But it shows you that when you're a fan of a program that always kind of is the underdog, and doesn't get the preseason hype and stuff like that, and suddenly you get it, and everyone, literally everyone goes, oh yeah, they're a playoff team. That's a different level of pressure. I think Missouri feels that. All of a sudden, everybody, you're a big game. Ole Miss was a big game to Kentucky. I watched the Kentucky fans react in the stands when the field goal was missed. That was euphoria. That wasn't, hey, whew, we held off Vanderbilt. Damn, that was close. That wasn't, oh my God, man, South Carolina, we did it. No, that was, we just beat a top 5 team on the road. Wow, we'll remember this for a long time. People are hugging and jumping up and acting crazy. I mean, they were excited. Good for them, right? I mean, it's a fan base that deserves a great moment. But that's what that was. That wasn't, oh man, whew, that was a close call against Georgia Southern. Got it. Whew, let's go have a beer. No, that was euphoria. And so you are the hunted. Like Ole Miss walks into South Carolina on Saturday. They've had this thing circled. This is one they want. They smell some blood, right? This is going to be a party at Williams-Brice. It kind of always is, but it's special. You've got a number in front of you. They're hyped for you the way they were for LSU. You're a big deal, and that's a new pressure for Ole Miss week in and week out, where everyone has you circled, and you're a high-profile ticket. You're not Vanderbilt. You're not Vanderbilt coming to town. You're more akin to Alabama or Georgia or something coming to town, where everybody's like, oh, this is a big game, big feel, right?
Mm-hmm. Another fascinating topic you discussed on your show, and I really wanted to pick your brain on this too. Eusebius Bentley. I had him pegged as a breakout candidate. You know, I thought in Kiffin's system with all these weapons, he was the guy that not enough people nationally were talking about. I thought he could maybe even lead the league in rushing, if depending on how many carries he gets. He's not being utilized. He's not even playing really outside of special teams. And then you go a step further, this is why I really like your show, Neal, because you're looking at it from different angles. But fair or not, I mean, thousands of Ole Miss fans giving money to NIL. They are paying his salary now. Probably realistically not. It's high level boosters, but they feel like they're paying his salary. He's not on the injury report, and Kiffin is, not giving any information. Do they have a right to know? Because in a sense, I feel like they do. So if they're paying, if this is professional sports, which is what it really is now, and these guys are getting paid, and I'm paying. I don't know how much rights I have to know that, but that is a fair question.
Oh, it's more than fair. It's a fascinating topic too, right? It really is. It's fascinating. Do pro sports for a minute. I'll talk about Ulysses Bentley in a second. I'm a Oklahoma City Thunder fan. If Shai Gilgeous-Alexander doesn't play, I typically know why. And they'll tell you ahead of time he's out. Got an ankle's bothering him. Got a foot injury, hamstring, whatever the case may be, and they'll update you. He's getting closer. Kind of think he'll return in 10 days. He's going to return for Boston in 2 weeks, whatever, right? It's part of pro sports. Shortstop goes on the injured list with they'll tell you, hey, he's got a broken hamate bone. He's going to miss 4 to 6 weeks. They'll tell you when he goes to rehab at AAA, he's going for 2 or 3 days. If all goes well, he's coming back for the Cincinnati series or whatever. College sports they want to have it both ways a little bit right now. They want to have, hey, fans, pay the players, but listen, we're not going to tell you everything about injuries. And so fans are upset. And in Bentley's case, if he's hurt, they're not telling anybody. He's not playing. Lane gets asked about it. And he basically says that, it's nothing he's doing. The other guys have beat him out. It's essentially what he says. And this is where it's interesting, right? Because most of the money that's paying the players is coming from big donors. It's coming from corporate donors. It's not coming from, Joe Schmo who's giving $20 a month. That's not real. Not really how fundraising works. But you know what? Joe Schmo gives $20 a month, and he feels ownership. I mean, I work for a site where people pay $9 a month to be on rebelgrove.com, and by God, they expect coverage. They expect you to have, when the kid from Calhoun City commits to Ole Miss at 10:30 on a Saturday night, they expect you to be up with the story. And if you're not, even though you just went to bed, you weren't being neglectful, you just didn't know it was coming, they're pissed at you. Well, it's even magnified when they give $20 a month to a collective and the running back that they think in part they're paying for doesn't play. And that team loses. They're pissed off. And there was a lot of animus. It was a different, I noticed it was an angrier meltdown than usual. Like whenever a team loses, there's a message board meltdown. We all have fun with that, blah, blah, blah. This was different. And it's like this everywhere. People, but at Ole Miss in particular, one of the things they really take pride in is that they've been ahead of the curve. They've been cutting edge and they have been on the collective, the Grove Collective. The flip side of that is that people feel ownership. And when you lose, they feel like their investment was not utilized wisely. And that pisses them off. And so it's why I tell you at the beginning, it's what's fascinating to me is that not everyone can win. Not everyone who has playoff expectations can get to the playoffs. And the teams that don't, are their fans going to continue to give to the collective? They might. I don't know. They might double down. They might go, you know what? Instead of giving 20, I'm going to give 40. Instead of giving 40, I'm going to give you 80. I'm going to give you 100. I don't know, Michael. I don't know what's going to happen. But I do wonder if some people go, this was stupid. Man, I gave a lot of money to that. That's money that could have gone to little Johnny's Christmas, little Jenny's Christmas. We could have taken the kids to Disney, whatever the case may be, right? And they go, this isn't worth it. You pay your own damn players. It's expensive enough for me to buy tickets. Tennessee did the deal recently. I thought it was fascinating. Danny White's one of the best ADs in the country. I thought it was really interesting that he did this. Hey, we're going to put a surcharge on top of the tickets and tell you it's for NIL. Arkansas Hunter Yurchek the other day came out with the big thing, and then they came back after that and went, we are going to put in a thing for $10 a month. Well, $10 a month doesn't really move the needle, but it makes people feel invested. And maybe if they put $10 in and then the team wins, they go, okay, you know what, I'm going to give 15. I'm going to give 20. I don't know what the philosophy is. I'm not in those rooms, but the whole idea is interesting, and not everyone can win. If Ole Miss wins big, man, I have no doubt people are going to keep pouring their money in. But if they don't, and they might not, I don't know. If they don't, I think there will be some people that go, this is crazy.
And how bad is this last dance mantra going to look if they continue to struggle? Will that be seen as a huge mistake? Because again, I get the players saying that, but Kiffin to go along with it. He's supposed to be building something that's sustainable, isn't he?
Yeah. It's. We do a show on Thursday night. We call it Hand Raise Guys, and I always say there should be a hand raise guy in every like corporate room. You know, just a person, male, female, whatever, who sits in the back, and his or her job is simply to every once in a while raise his or her hand and go, why? Or no. Or that's stupid. Or can I explain to you why I think this is not a great idea? And I wonder sometimes when the Last Dance thing happened, what would have happened if someone said, you guys are familiar with that story, right? How it ended? Everybody left. It was this magical season. Yeah, they won the championship. But at the end, Phil and Scotty and Dennis and Michael and Steve and everybody, the whole group went their separate ways. That was the end. And by the way, since then, the Bulls have not even been close to a title. They had a moment. I mean, you know, Rose won a MVP, had a couple of years where maybe won a playoff series, but they haven't been the Bulls since then. Yeah, I thought it was weird at the time. I mean, look, I get it. It's a whole bunch of guys with their last season. Yes, they're a transfer portal team, but the core of their team's been together for a while, and they all kind of came back for one more run because last season they went 11-2, and you know they were probably a win away from doing something big. And had they beaten Georgia, had they beaten Alabama, you know, and they all came back for that. But yeah, I think it's a risky narrative, and it's certainly, if you just draw straight correlations, you go, so what are you saying? At the end of this, everyone's leaving? This is a one-time thing? I mean, shit, Michael, I don't know. Maybe it is. We'll see. I mean, I don't know those answers yet. That's why I think Saturday in Columbia is just absolutely critical, because if Ole Miss wins that game, you sort of catch your breath and go, okay, well, next Saturday's really big. But if they lose Saturday in Columbia, boy, all this stuff becomes really magnified and the noise gets really loud. And, sometimes the noise gets so loud that you can't think. Like in the real world, you got a lot. Like the other day, I had a problem with my computer, and for something we changed a setting on it or something, and I was trying to get it fixed, and the speaker was so loud right in my face that I literally had to catch myself because I couldn't concentrate on what it was. Okay, where am I going? How do I get to that setting? Because it's just noise at me. How do I turn that off? The big thing in my mind was, how do I just get this noise off for a minute so I can think? And when that noise gets super loud, figurative noise around your program, in the middle of it, as you're getting ready to go to LSU and stuff, man, it can spiral. It can just become too much. And I think they're on the cusp of that. But I'll use the other example, and I'm being really long-winded. In 2003, I was basically covering LSU as a beat writer. I was in Mobile. I was probably at 7 or 8 LSU games that year. And I remember there was a game in the middle of October. LSU was at home against Florida. It was Chris Leak's Florida. Ron Zook was the coach at Florida. So this wasn't Urban Meyer, Florida, or Steve Spurrier, Florida. This was just whatever, Florida. And Florida came into Baton Rouge. It was a CBS game, 2:30, and beat the hell out of them. Just popped LSU. Really did. Dominated the game. I don't remember the final score. It doesn't really matter. And there were a lot of people around that LSU program that day that were like, it's over. Done. Night. Write the obituaries. Not winning anything. They didn't lose again. They won the national title. You can bounce back from these losses. They happen. Alabama lost at home in, what was that, 15 to Ole Miss in Tuscaloosa. They messed up the quarterback thing that night. Ole Miss got them, and Alabama won the national title. I mean, you can come back from early losses. It's going to test your mettle. You're going to find out what you're made of. But in this era with the portal and all of those things and playoffs or bust or all that, yeah, the height, the pressure gets ratcheted up, and you find out whether you can handle it or not.
Mm-hmm. And last thing for you, Neal, really appreciate your time. But as hopefully there's no more losses, but if they continue to pile up with this last dance, the whole thing I've been saying, Neal, when it comes with this Florida speculation, it's completely asinine because Ole Miss, I had them penciled in as a surefire playoff team.
Same.
The timing makes no sense. Florida's not going to wait till mid-January to hire a coach. They'll lose everything. But all of a sudden, if Ole Miss is not a playoff team, then that window means nothing. And Kiffin could leave. And I'm seeing, it's not just fans now, Neal. It's media people that are out there saying, Kiffin's probably the guy. I mean, this is going to get louder and louder and louder. And they all think Florida's 10 times the job Ole Miss is. But my opinion is however we graded these jobs 5-10 years ago is completely meaningless. If I'm Lane Kiffin, what I'm looking for, how much are you going to pay me? And Ole Miss can pay whatever Florida's going to pay. But more importantly, what's the NIL budget? What can Florida promise me? What can Ole Miss promise me? And whoever's more, that's where Kiffin will be the head coach. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, so let's play this out, because I agree with you completely. One of the reasons that I disregarded it from the very beginning was like you. I was like, look, if Ole Miss makes the playoff, man, I mean, they're playing at a minimum, they're playing on December the 20th. So, he's not leaving a playoff team to go take the Florida job. You've got the portal, you've got the early signing period. It doesn't make sense. Now, in a world where Ole Miss doesn't make the playoff, and let's say they lose the next 2 games, just for the record, I don't think they're going to, but let's say they do. It's over. On October the 12th, it's over. And in that world, the fans are pissed off. The fans are not worshiping at the feet of Lane Kiffin in that world. media has to ask because someone writes it. Let's even go a step further. Let's say Florida gets blown out against Tennessee and they go ahead and make a move. And suddenly that job's open and his answer can't be, look, I'm not talking about a job that somebody else has. And he goes, look, I'm not talking about jobs. I'm not doing that. That's a no comment, right? People get pissed off at that. Now everybody's angry. It's hard to get firm answers on NIL when everyone's pissed off. So I think in the world that we're describing in this hypothetical, yeah, all of that stuff gets put up on the table. Where if you're Ole Miss, if you're Keith Carter, if you're the people there, I mean, you're sitting down hopefully with Lane Kiffin, and you're asking questions. And if you don't feel crazy good about the answers, you've got to start kind of getting your ducks in a row. What if he leaves? What do you do? So yeah, man, I mean, that's why and you're doing a really good job of making me say all this because that's why I said this week's so big. Because this week's really big. Because if they win this week, we're not talking about Lane Kiffin to Florida yet. If they lose this week, yeah, people are going to start talking about it. And it's going to get, is it real? I don't know. Is that who Florida wants? I think so. Is that a job that Lane wants? I don't know. I've heard different things. But no one really knows Lane. So when people go, well, he definitely, I disregard those people right away. I'm like, you have no idea, you're guessing. If you go, he definitely wants it or he definitely doesn't want it, I'll throw you away. I'm like, you're making it up. You're cheering. I don't know. He might not. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how he weighs those jobs. I don't know how his agent, Jimmy Sexton, would weigh those jobs. I have no clue. I don't know what the internal dynamics of Florida are when they give Billy Napier $27 million. When they pay him off and you pay off his staff, and what do you have left? What do you have in NIL? What's not pledges, but real money on hand for NIL? Because we saw with UNLV, you can't promise the money. You could give the money. So what do you really have? And most of these NIL operations are operating 30, 60 days in advance. These are not organizations that are flush with cash. What is your infrastructure? I don't know the answer to those things. I doubt if too many people really do. So, but in terms of noise, yeah, it would be a big part of the noise because people would write about it. Okay, well, you could conceivably hire Lane Kiffin on the Saturday after Thanksgiving in that world. Ole Miss plays Mississippi State on Black Friday, day after Thanksgiving. You could turn around and in a world where Ole Miss isn't going to a playoff game and half the damn team's opting out of the Tax Slayer Bowl, sure, you could go hire him. He's not staying for that in that scenario. So, yeah, I mean, it's these next, as we sit here and tape this on a Wednesday afternoon, these next 10 days for Ole Miss, man, they're huge.
All right, Neal. Well, I've taken up enough of your time. Before you go, can you tell my audience how do they follow you and how can they find your work?
Yeah, the big one is go find us on YouTube at MPW Digital. We have tons and tons of shows, McCready and Siskey, Blue Sky Live, a lot of Pete's Pigskin Preview, The Butcher versus the Dance Instructor. We have a lot of fun at MPW Digital. You can also, wherever you listen to podcasts, we're there too. Spotify, Apple, all of that. And then I'm at rebelgrove.com. It's part of the Rivals Network. If you're an Ole Miss fan, we consider ourselves the market leader. Others probably disagree, but we do. So you could follow us there. And then I'm on X or Twitter or whatever at Neal McCready, although I really don't put a whole bunch of Ole Miss stuff there. So if you want my Ole Miss stuff, MPW Digital or rebelgrove.com is probably the place to go.